me an individual instructor and let me work at my own pace and schedule. They gave me up to a year to finish the course. They taught the things I needed to know for the exam in the logical order, the way you actually manage a project. They didn't want me to memorize an encyclopedia of facts. After I enrolled in my prep course, they immediately sent me my instructor's name and phone number, and he asked me to take an assessment test, which would let him know how much knowledge I had of the various aspects of project management. That was the start to customizing my course. Then I had a video conference with my instructor. We talked about my project experience, and he asked whether I was a visual learner or a logical flowchart learner. We talked about how I should use the course learning materials, which ones would be most helpful for me, and which ones I could skip. Then we talked about how we would interact, and that he would call me as many times as I needed. There was no limit to the personal calls I received. He also promised to get back to me within 24 hours on my questions and on my scores on all my practice exams. I would learn through experiential learning coupled with individual instruction. I would learn the processes by following 3 different projects from start to finish and seeing all the plans, reports, and documentation. For example, read about and watch a SCO planning session and learn the best practices techniques. You see how the project manager took the inputs, applied the correct techniques and tools, and created the outputs. After we finished our web conference, I started my course. First up was the reading assignment for the first module. I'm a visual learner, so I also made sure to use the flowcharts through the PMI processes. After finishing the reading, I had a couple of questions on the sequence of the PMI processes, so I emailed my instructor and asked him to give me a call the next day. After we talked, I went online to watch my lecture videos. They're available 24/7, so I was able to watch half before dinner and then finish up with the lectures the next morning.
First, and then we plan our requirements and management, and then we manage the stakeholder engagement and we control the stakeholder engagement. That's the sequence of steps in stakeholder management.
I also watch videos of project managers working through each of the PMI processes. That really helped me nail down the PMI sequence and what happens when. When I wanted more information, I could drill down on the concepts covered in the lecture. The course website has a search function, so I could look up additional information on any PMI terms I wanted to study more thoroughly. After that, I took my first practice exam. My instructor sent me feedback on each practice exam I took within 24 hours. I got my exam back, and my instructor reviewed everything I missed and gave me links to more detailed information on the topics I missed on the exam. Each module in the course has 2 multiple-choice exams, and my instructor had me take them until I scored at least 90% on each one. There were also super scenario essays for each module, where I wrote out answers to questions. After those 3 exams, my instructor and I could tell whether or not I really got it. I went through the rest of the modules just this way, and my instructor always insisted that I get a 90 on each exam before we moved on, because that was the way he was certain I would pass the PMI exam the first time. I had a couple of modules where I had to do some additional work, and when we got about halfway through, he helped me with my application to PMI. When I finished the course, I submitted my application to PMI, and I did a special review while I was waiting to hear back from them. When I had scheduled my exam date, my instructor and I began a special 4-day comprehensive review, which was part of my course and was all the review I needed. I had a different exercise every day. They took about 3 hours, and my instructor talked to me a couple of times, including a call on the night before my exam, where he gave me some test-taking tips and helped me relax a little bit. The next day I took my exam. It was tough, but I passed on my first try, and now I'm a PMP.